Mic'd up.
Hello. Welcome to Yankees Coast to Coast. I am one of your hosts, Adam Schneider, with my buddy and best big toe, Michael Miller.
Michael Miller Hulka.
Miller Hulka. That's
Miller.
right.
That's me.
You guys, if there's anyone who is any of you 8 out there who have not seen Stripes, please. That is classic television.
Oh, speaking of movies, so my last couple of days of classes, I got done early, and we needed something to do, so I showed the movie Catch Me If You Can, because it has a little bit to do with check fraud and a little bit to do with my class.
Great film.
Great movie. And my students watched it, and they loved it. So many of them had, 90% of them hadn't seen it, and they loved it. So at the end of the class, I said to them, no, I've been referencing movies all semester, and you guys have been laughing at me. I said, this was on my list. Do you want me to tell you the other movies that were on my list? And I gave them 3 movies. And they all said, well, you want us to watch The Godfather. I go, yeah, I used the movie Godfather in the class.
They haven't seen The Godfather?
No.
Do they have fathers?
I said, who raised you guys, wolves? I sent them in my class for intentional interference, tortious interference of contract. I used the Luca Brasi story that Michael Corleone tells. And I said, there's an example of tortious interference of contract. And then I show it in class. You laugh, but I show it. I also show Willy Wonka, the original, with Gene Wilder, reading the contract and saying that he breached the contract.
That is true. You get nothing.
Right, and then I also use a couple other things in there. So I gave him 3 movies. I said, obviously, The Godfather, and I was like, well, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, you should all see. I said, there's only 6 Academy Award-winning actors in there. And then we just talked about a whole other movies. It was very fun.
Now tell me, did you tell them to notice the great line that I've been playing with for the last week about the Yankees in Catch Me If You Can? Christopher Walken's great line?
And actually, the first time you used it, it was right before I was going to show the movie. And I said, here's a line from the movie that my friend just used in talking about the Yankees. And they were dying. And it was, by the way, it said twice in the movie. Once by what's his face?
Christopher Walken, the father.
And the second time by DiCaprio. And
of course, what's his name? No, the Yankees win.
Hanks is like, no, they win because they have Mickey Mantle.
And Hanks says, no, the Yankees win because of Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyhow, it was very funny. So it was a very good. Your timing on it couldn't have been better.
Well, I think it's an accurate assessment of the situation. I really do. I think that there is cachet to wearing the great pinstripes. Fortunately, our dear right fielder, or soon now departed right fielder,
dearly departed right fielder. So, all right. So here's the topics for today. Speaking of our dearly departed right fielder, we're going to talk about Soto for a little bit. And what we're going to say is, hey, he's gone. He's a Met. What do we think? Why did he choose the Mets? We're going to divide up our why did he choose the Mets into a little bit of the BS that's going around and then some of the other stuff, because we talked about that last week, to be quite honest with you. And then the second major topic we're going to have is last week we talked about the Yankees' needs, and we talked about that they need a first baseman. They need either a second baseman or a third baseman and an outfielder, and to rebuild the bullpen.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about what's out there in free agency, and then because we know who's out there in free agency. We wouldn't be making that up. They're free agents. And then the other stuff is who's out there in a trade, which neither one of us, you even less than me, likes talking prospective trades because, what the hell do we know?
There are 2 huge ones being talked about right now. Those we can talk about because they are part of the narrative right now.
Right.
Talking about the Yankees have a one-testicled third baseman that I hear is ready to be traded. The Yankees love him, but he's going to the Tampa Bay Rays for an as yet to be born third baseman. It's like I hate when Kramer gets going on that. I'm like, dude, stop. It's blather.
Yeah, well, the other half of it is
basically a fart
it's
coming out of
most
your
of the
mouth.
and most of the trade conversation is just total garbage. I mean, if you listen to the talk radio stuff, it's just ridiculous stuff. I mean, we could talk about what's out there, and guys want to trade Louis Heel for Tucker, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a start,
But
but really, that ain't going to work.
no,
But we'll talk
and
about that. We'll talk about it when we
yeah,
get to it. How's that?
sure.
Um,
I like that plan. We have a lot of good people participate, and our buddy Enrique
well, I
Suave,
sent him I sent him and his son specific notes to try and get them to participate.
good.
So let's get right into it then. All right, Soto.
Who?
Soto.
He's gone. He's dead to me. He's dead to me.
All right. So you and I both have the same opinion, right? Why did he go to the Mets?
You're asking me. Some money. It was a whole boatload, a big old pile of cash, lots of simoles. He uh, he was blown away by the money. But I have to tell you, this is where I have a problem. I think the Yankees did everything that went way beyond. We talked about it here. I think we were thinking 600, 650. Yankees went to 760. This guy didn't want to be a Yankee.
No, I just
Be a Yankee.
right. We both said he was going to go. If it was all about the money, he was going to the Mets, and there was never going to be a doubt in our mind.
But was it really all about the money? There's a couple of things. It was the Yankees off 760. He took 765.
But
Right.
1 year less and the opt out.
Yeah,
So.
and to me, the opt-out was a big deal. And I don't know why the Yankees would not agree to that, because to me, you get 5 great years. I think that's the only good part of that deal for the Mets, is that I would turn down. We'll talk about that later. But I think the best that's something I'm surprised the Yankees didn't give. I'm not surprised about the 75 million up front. The Yankees didn't offer that. So the Yankees
The Yankees were offering. It wasn't like I thought they offered like 50.
Did they? I haven't heard. I've heard different things. I've also heard that they didn't offer anything, any bonus.
Well, yeah. So but we both talked about it last week. It was going to be about the money, unless he really wanted to be on the Yankees, and that's the bottom line.
Could care less.
Yeah, and I think I didn't think the Dodgers were going to be in play. I didn't think the Red Sox were going to play in that neighborhood.
I don't think the Red Sox were ever in play. I think that was all noise.
And I
Probably
think the
Boris noise.
And the Blue Jays were in play because the Blue Jays, they are the second richest team in baseball ownership.
Yeah, but and they have to overpay, and the players won't go there.
And there's massive extra taxes. I mean, you talk about the taxes that playing in New York and California, playing in Canada makes it much, much worse even. So,
yeah. What do you think? Why did they go? I mean, why did he go to the Mets? Really,
well,
ultimately,
I think he went to the Mets for the money. So let's hear from two Met fans. Well, first we'll hear from my cousin, who refused to call into the show because he's better than we are. I mean, I'm sure he's not listening, so who gives a crap?
Putz.
I had a show for 4 years at college, and yeah. You saw my response. Past performance is not any. It's not any indicator of future talent. Anyhow, his response, Matthew J. Herman, and the J stands for whatever you want to say.
Oh,
I don't even know what his middle name is. I'm calling J because of his behavior. So, by the way, his son is now the #1 pitching prospect, uncommitted pitching prospect in the class of 26 in New Jersey.
He may be a putz, but I got to tell you, his son is the real deal. I'm real proud of him. That's great. He worked hard. And I've been following his career, if you want to call it that, but his amateur career.
You're following his career. He's first going to be a junior in high school, but that's
but I've been seeing him since he was like 5 on Facebook. He's amazing.
Well, Matt, the size of Matthew. Matthew's 6'4", 2, whatever he is.
It's nice that he can actually, but his son can actually play baseball.
Well, no, Matthew can play too. You got to remember, Matthew's won MVP at Mets camp, and that's a real.
Oh boy!
Wait, that's a real camp, and he's hit homers in Mets camp over the fence.
He's a good. I've played with him. He's an excellent baseball player.
Yeah.
He's great at old fart.
You should recruit him to pitch for your team. I don't know if he's old enough.
Top of the line old fart. That's for sure.
So anyhow, he wrote, losing the best pure hitter in the game since Ted Williams is a big blow, and especially to the Mets. The Yankees failing to have the highest offer is also an affront to Yankee fans. George is turning over in his grave. The Mets are now the biggest, baddest team in New York, and the Yankees, despite their storied history, are now officially a second-class team. I listen. I do.
Where do I start?
Wait.
So
I
many
will say
stupid
this.
things in that statement.
I do believe George is spinning around in his grave that they weren't the highest bidder. I absolutely do agree with that sentence. That much of it I do agree with. But I don't think George would be able to outbid Cohen. So let,
No,
let's
no,
take it
he's
back.
not. They wouldn't. And because here's what was going to happen. I think the Yankees got off the roller coaster because they're smart enough, and I'm proud of them. This is basic negotiation. Anybody who's involved in this kind of thing sees it. I deal with it all the time in my work. Where you have two parties that are fighting for the same place. One of them has deeper pockets, and what happens is it comes down to the guy with the deeper pockets wants the player or the department or whatever at all cost, and you get to the point where you're being used and you're being used by somebody. And what happened here was Boris, that human colostomy bag, basically decided to, do what he does best. He went first. He goes to the Red Sox, brings. I'm sure he leaked the news of the Red Sox being imminently in on this one. I'm sure they were
I think
in.
the Red Sox were in up to
Yeah,
600.
but the noise I'm sure that came out of it was clearly him, and he loves every minute of it, plays it off, and then he builds the Yankees stress about having to deal with the Red Sox getting more than Mets. Either way, it's a lose for the Yankees, big lose. And then what happens is, the Yankees got to the point where they knew he goes in at 760. I think they did this a few times, and every time Cohen came back with a better number. And they kept doing, Ray Charles in Ray, or Jamie Farr in Jamie
Before.
Foxx. Sorry, Jamie Foxx. He goes, "Can you match it?" you know, and he kept doing that. Can you match it? And at some point, it got very clear that
Well,
he wasn't going. They weren't going to get
allegedly
it,
they
and they
never
got out.
really. They allegedly never gave the Yankees a chance to match. And based on the articles I'm reading and the press conference, Cohen said when he got done meeting with Soto in his Boca house in Florida, he didn't think they were getting Soto.
Yeah,
And
because that's fine, and I'm sure that they did that in order to create, and that was, I'm sure, strategy. That's Boris. Don't let on. Make them feel that you're not interested,
right,
and create energy and stress.
as much
And
as
he
he
probably did
screwed
the
up,
same
right,
thing to the Yankees.
as much as he screwed up last year, Boris, he definitely did a good job with Soto this year.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
nailed it.
he nailed it. And and I think it's amusing the Yankee fans. Oh, now they have $760 million to spend. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they
They
don't.
didn't want.
They still have the Hal cap, which is 301.
So they
They
have what, 70 million to work with.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but they have after Freed, they've got about 50.
I do want to bring up, though, on the Soto front, that it does annoy me, and you didn't comment on my rant earlier, so I assume that you must have been embarrassed for me. Uh, but
Well, let me just say one thing I'm embarrassed about. What was that, Totoro? What's the guy's name that had that's just ridiculous.
that's bad.
I mean, you
That
tell
that's
me
that's embarrassing
if
as
he
well.
gets if
My opinion.
for him personally, he gets two movie offers that are equal to what Soto just got. You tell me he's going to take the one that the Yankees offered over
I
the one
mean,
that the Mets. There's no way. He's a fool. He looks like an idiot.
he looks like an
He's
idiot,
a
but
great
also that's
actor.
part of his
Great
thing.
actor,
He
but
wears
he's an
specs.
idiot.
What?
He's a great actor, but he's an
Yeah,
idiot.
but I don't. I think what happens with him is that's his shtick.
Yeah.
Now they expect it, and I think he played off, but he went too far, way too far. But my rant on this is when I hear the press conference today. I hear Asti pulling out the press conference that someone asked him, "Did the Yankees call you?" And he said, "No, nobody called me."
Well,
And
actually, that bothers me.
yeah, and then he
I
plays
don't think that
Bobby
I don't think that's
in
not.
Saturday
I don't
Night
think that's
Live.
the
You never
reason.
called me, Tony. You
I
never
don't think
called me. I
I don't
hate
think
that
that's
stuff.
the reason. So we're going to get into some of this BS stuff, but I don't think that's the reason he didn't sign with the
Come
Yankees. I
on,
think it was all about the
Bobby.
money. It was all about the money. But I do think it is an embarrassment if it's true that no Yankee player contacted him. Judge came out specifically and said he wasn't going to contact him, which I thought was a mistake.
All
But
right.
because Judge,
That's
because
the reason he didn't come back. He didn't come
no,
back
it's not
because
the reason. It's not the reason he didn't come back. I wholeheartedly don't think that. But the Mets had Lindor in a meeting. The Mets had a whole bunch of different players contact him. And I do think the Yankees did a very bad job if they didn't incorporate Judge in touching base with him
Here's the
and
difference.
Cole.
Here's
But
the
I
difference.
don't think that's why he did. I don't think it had anything to do why he didn't sign, but I think that's a
But
mistake.
these guys spent the last year
Doesn't matter.
walking around naked in the clubhouse together. They know each other. They're friends. They hang out with one another. They don't need to introduce themselves. It's a different story. The Mets didn't know him. They saw him at second base and slapped him on the hiney. Hey, how you doing? This is different.
I know, but
The
I
Yankees
just
knew
think that
him.
you need to. I think you need to have your team leadership just make a call, and that way they can maybe find some stuff out that they could pass back to ownership. I do also think that Cohn did a better job of ingratiating himself, if that's the right word, into Soto, because Soto has always had a good relationship with the owners, even for his year in San Diego. And, Hal did what Hal does. If it was George would have been, basically making sure that Soto had enough hookers. But Hal is
The good old days.
Hal's a hands off kind of guy. George isn't George the guy that made sure that Mickey had a ride from the track every day to get to the stadium on time?
That's right. And he took Reggie out to 21 and made him feel like he was king.
Hal's
He
just
put him
not
in
like that. Right? Hal's not like that.
Hal's not like that. And also, come on, have you met Hal? I met Hal once. He's not exactly like his father. I mean, his father. I remember meeting his father at camp, and he comes running up to us all in sweaty uniforms, and he's hugging us and telling us this is before he got sick.
We are the fans.
And it was, he said, we're all Yankee. I mean, it was wonderful. I met Hal. Hal's like sort of a very standoffish, quiet guy. It's just not his personality to be that. He's not magnanimous, and maybe that would have helped. But I think the Yankees do everything the way the Yankees do it.
Ultimately, it was about the money.
And then there's the thing about that somebody insulted his mommy. Like that Joe, this annoys me beyond human comprehension. That Soto made his decision because Joe the doorman basically insulted his mom.
That would be Carlton, your doorman, by the way.
Carlton the doorman basically says to him, says to his mother, "Get out of here. You're not welcome here." Never happened.
No, he just told her she couldn't go to a certain place.
And you know what? We've all been to Yankee Stadium, and we know that.
Oh,
we've all worked at Yankee. You and I worked a job.
We're not allowed to go to the bathroom by ourselves, and we're working there.
We need a guy who's sitting there hearing us farting in the room. And
the only guy to go to the bathroom by himself, and he shouldn't be allowed to, is DeMeo, because he gets locked in there by himself.
That's correct. That's correct.
Sorry, before we go off on this a little more, let's hear from another Met fan.
Please.
Rico Suave, Weil.
Okay, so you want to hear from a Met fan about the Soto deal. Totally excited. But they got to surround him with the players. One guy doesn't win a World Series. Obviously, the Yankees didn't win it last year with Soto. So they got to fill the roster with the right pieces. And I'm just afraid of pitching right now, that we don't have enough pitching to win it. But it'll be great seeing him in a Met uniform for sure. Hope that helps.
We don't have enough pitching. I can't believe that he's on the team. Anyhow, let me ask you a different question. Yeah. How long has Rich been living in California?
I've known him since '93. So that would be
that's when I moved.
31 years.
How does he still have such a thick Brooklyn accent?
Well, he calls my daughter Bianca.
Well, that's my mother's best. Hey, my mother's friend is Linda, and her name's Linda. So
we always make fun of that.
Yeah. So anyhow, yes, they have to surround them with the best players, but there's a big difference. And I wrote this in our string with my cousin. And the Yankees have the money, but they don't have the unlimited money because Cohn doesn't care even about the Cohn tax. And as well as Cashman's teams have done, I don't think Cashman is as good as Stearns. as a GM. Let's face facts, right? I mean, I know maybe Cashman wants to go to a small market team. He never will because he's got a job for life with the Yankees. Why go anywhere? But Stearns will make sure that the money is spent the right way.
Correct.
With an
And not
budget.
only that, there's plenty of time. They can do this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they go after Burns now. They're going to go after somebody.
They've got plenty of room. You got to remember, even after signing Soto, the Mets payroll for 25 is still in the 230s.
But aren't they paying off all these guys?
No, they got off the hook because none of them hit their incentives. So Scherzer's gone, and Verlander's gone, and all these guys are gone. I think if the Mets are smart, and if they're going to spend, even if they're going to spend a little bit, I think they should go out and get Burns and Alonso. I mean, they do need a starter and get Burns, and then get Alonso, and they're still going to be at $300 million because those guys can make less than 40.
Point of all this is he can afford it all. And then next year he can afford to go after Kyle Tucker. It'll be no problem at all. The guy doesn't care about this. The taxes are joke to him.
But that's good. I like that. That's why we like Stein George. You can't get mad as a Yankee. And that's my favorite. Oh, the Mets are buying a World Series. You know what? Shut the hell up. The Yankees did it for years.
I have no problem with it. I don't. It's not. My problem is always when the Yankees cry poor mouth. That to me, Bob, when the Yankees say, that's why I'm so happy what they did with Soto, that they showed everybody that they went dollar to dollar with this guy. They went way above an area that was comfortable to them. They saw that he has some warts in his game, which, by the way, I'd like to talk about a little bit, because I think the Mets
talk about his warts. I mean, he's the best hitter. He's the best hitter in baseball.
He is, but he's there. Listen.
He's not a bad base runner, but he's not fast, and he's not an awful fielder. Not good, and he's got, despite what everybody might be writing, he showed he has an above average arm, especially for Yankee Stadium.
Actually, it's exactly average. I've been looking up his stats on Statcast. He's at 49%, so he is right in the middle with the top one. He's on the southern side of the top of the arms. So he's very good. He's a great player. Now tell me something. Do you think Kyle Tucker is all around, even in a ballpark close to him, because all around he's such a great defender and an excellent runner as well?
Soto was better than Tucker, but
I mean all around. Well, let's talk about it. We've talked about this when he was.
Let's talk about it after. Let's talk about that after when we talk about what's next. Okay. We got one other comment on Soto from our friend Rob Weber.
Hey guys, after that Soto signing with the Mets, I think the Yankees have slipped down to third place in the race for evilest empire in baseball, behind the Dodgers and the Mets. I mean, look at what Cohen's doing. He's giving Soto whatever he wants. He just kept saying, yes, yes, yes. I think that's bad for the sport. But I said that 10 years ago. I said that 20 years ago.
Whiny Giants fan. He's actually a Cubs fan. So he's going to be worse. Gonna be better. But wow. What's really funny to me is you know what? If you want to spend the money, spend the money. That's the way the world works. That's the bottom line. I don't care about that at all.
I think that it's a new game now. The Yankees are a family-owned business. It's the Steinbrenner family. That's their money. That's their income. A lot of this is going into his pocket. They've got plenty of money, but this is what the Yankees are, the business of the Steinbrenners, and that's it. Yankees aren't a hedge fund. The Yankees are not, they're not owned by these billionaire companies or this billionaire guy who has unlimited funds. And I heard somewhere he could always reach into somewhere and find his money. He could always get it. I think they said he's one of the 100 richest men in the world. Oh. That's pretty amazing. Steinbrenner can't go there, but it's not like the Yankees. It doesn't matter when you have that kind of money; they can still compete at any level. The Yankees have nothing that keeps them, as they just showed with the Fried signing. They went above and beyond what anybody else for any left-handed pitcher ever.
Yeah, but not really, and we'll talk about that too. They didn't really do that, and let me hedge us over to our next question. Before we get there, obviously, we want to do our promotions on the Mic'd Up app. There's a show on Monday from Coach G where they're going to talk about mental aspects of the game. I suggest you guys check in for that one. And then, of course, it's a good show. He's going to talk about mental aspects of sports. And the other thing is, obviously, our friends, highlights from Lowlifes.
Boom!
Which end did that come out of? Anyhow,
South End.
I could smell it from here. Here we go. This is the sound that they deserve. Oh, it's not playing. Oh well, what can you do? Wah, wah, wah. Here we go.
Mike,
Yeah, we got it.
Disappoint, Mike. You have to have these things ready. A good boo.
Here we go. You ready? You're not going to give him a boo. We're going to give him this.
You're going to give up 9 minutes of the show trying to do this right.
There you go. Anyhow, they're going to have talk about the cross section between pop culture and sports. 4 guys sitting around drinking beer because they have a sponsor. All right.
Have you ever seen them get loaded? Have you ever seen them kind of get bombed on set?
Yeah. On set, yes, absolutely.
Or on pod?
On pod, yes, they do get bombed. All right, so let's get on to our next topic. Really, the next topic is an interesting one because, what have the Yankees done? They signed Fried, and what are their needs? First base, second base, or third base, an outfielder, and a bullpen.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They went out and signed Fried. Now, as much as my cousin Matthew's ripping them for signing Fried, by the way, Fried was expected to get 6 and 156, and the Yankees gave him 8 and what was it, 218?
218.
But if you look at the contracts and then you look at the players, Snell got 5 years and 182, which is an AAV of 36.4 with a $52 million signing bonus, and then 12 payments, very Bobby Bonilla-like, 12 payments starting in 2035 of $5.5 million deferred. So really, for a payroll tax number, the Snell contract is $31.3 million and change per year. Fried, who has some upfront money that the Yankees gave him, but his contract is 8 years, 218, which only comes out to 250. So while the Yankees are doing fine, it's a better contract. And then you compare the two pitchers, right? All right, so they both have, Snell has 9 years. Let's really call it 8. We won't count the COVID year, right? He has 8 years. He's only pitched 180 innings twice. Granted, both times he won the Cy Young Award, so that says something. But he also has 6 years where he's pitched less than 130 innings. His ERA plus is 128. His WHIP is 1.217. His Ks per 9 is 11.2, and his strikeout to walk ratio is 2.76.
Mm-hmm.
So Fried has 8 years, really 7. And really, his first 2 years, he was up and down between the minors and the majors. So if you really think about it, he's really only had about 4 full years in the majors. 3 of them, he had 165 or more innings. He has an ERA plus of 140, better than Snell. A WHIP of 1.164, better than Snell. A K per 9 rate of 8.8, not as good as Snell, but his walk to strikeout ratio is 3.51, which is almost 1 whole point better than Snell. I think it's a better contract. Now, granted, Snell is now signed through his age 37 year, and Fried is signed through his year 38 year. So I think it's a better contract. I would not have, I was saying it last week, I would have gone shorter term with a guy like Buehler or one of the other guys that are out there. But if you're going to sign a guy, I like him better than Burns. Burns is going to be getting over $30 million a year, and Burns's numbers are getting worse each of the last couple of years.
That's right, and that's why I think there's a problem with his signing. Maybe he hasn't signed yet, and there's something going on. People are a little bit worried. Reminds me a little of Snell last year.
I think he's going to be fine.
He will be fine.
He's never hurt. I mean, Burns is never, ever, ever hurt.
But there are signs. His spin rate is down. His strikeout rate is down. I mean, there's concern. Something is worrying people, and he throws hard, and that's something that if you don't make that adjustment to a great, to a pitcher after you've been a fireballer, it can be hard. Maybe there's always question, will that happen? Now, what I like about this guy, Fried, is he has a damage prevention arsenal. Like his game is around his 7 pitches. Got a great sinker. Gives up no home runs. It to me, what's great about him is that he's perfect for the Yankees team with a good infield. If the Yankees fix their infield, if they fill up first base, if they improve at second base,
Or
a
third.
guy like this will be great, especially if Volpe improves. Because Volpe, as good as he is prone to make a tough error now and again, but that's a young guy. But skill-wise, he's going to get better. He is going to become even more solid. A third baseman, Jazz stops throwing the ball around. I think Jazz can be great at third base. So the question is very important that the Yankees.
Or Jazz could be back at second, where he was a very good
it's
second baseman.
very important the Yankees fix the right side of their infield right now.
So we do have a
if they've
comment.
got
We have a
this
comment
guy.
from Caro with regard to the free agency. Steve Caro, because he is a loyal listener.
It was a good start to free agency for the Yankees, but there's still a lot of work to do. We still need a first baseman and a third baseman.
We
love
do.
to see them get Clay Bellinger. Have to do a trade. Probably Stroman, maybe others as well. He could also play center field as a backup if Dominguez doesn't perform. Need a third baseman. Love to trade with Tampa for Yandy Diaz. He would fill in great, and he can also play first.
What? Can I ask you a question? So Steve lives really close to my brothers. Doesn't he sound exactly like Todd, voice-wise? Anyhow,
Right.
I see. I don't disagree with Steve at all. There's nothing
Right.
that I disagree with. As you start talking about these different things, I think you start looking at the contracts. Right? Would you rather have Nathan Eovaldi at 3 years and 75, or Severino at 3 and 67, or Clay Holmes at 3 and 38? Or would you rather have Fried with the contract the Yankees gave him? So I think it was a good signing. I think he fits the stadium. He's a lefty. Are the Yankees hoping that he has a Jimmy Key type and Andy Pettitte type longevity? Absolutely. Does he have a chance to do that? Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
because he has the arsenal that can be that he can shift to more crafty,
right.
the more more about the stuff and less about the heat.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy you could see sort of late Guidry. You could see you could see Catfish. Could he go to become a Catfish kind of guy who plays well into his into his late 30s?
And 2 Gold Gloves. Athlete.
Oh, hey, imagine that. Someone who can play the infield.
So he'll remember to cover first. He'll remember to cover first base. So that'll be good. And we'll go from there. So so those from that standpoint, I think it's great. So the Yankees also the Yankees also signed Loaizaga, which nobody knows what the contract is. So as we talk about the Yankees at this point, if you put in Fried's contract and assume the arbitration numbers for Trevino and other guys that are out there for arbitration, the Yankees are allegedly going to be at $255 million in payroll, which means, assuming Hal sticks to his 301 number, they have $46 million to spend in increasing salaries through trades or signing free agents.
Mm-hmm.
What do they have to get rid of? Well, the Yankees now have 7 major league starting pitchers on their roster. Nobody else has 7 major league roster starting pitchers. Cole, Rondon, Fried, Schmidt, Heel, Cortez, and Stroman. You know what?
Let's talk about that.
They have 7 guys. They can deal one of them or 2 of them. I would actually love them to get rid of both Stroman and Cortez.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, this is, I haven't really heard a lot about this, but it's a very interesting shift in the Yankees mentality. They're saying they lost a generational player in right field. They're not expecting to be able to fill that hole other than in the aggregate with a couple of guys.
Right.
And even that won't do it. But what they're doing is they're saying, we're going to focus on starting. And then they know they can work on their relief. They know their relief is fine because they're going to always find a way to make that happen. So they probably feel confident there. But what I think is amazing is the idea that they now have two. You got to think that Fried is a number 1 on most staffs. Not here.
Cole, Fried, and Rodon are 1, 2, 3, and it's going to be hard for anybody except for maybe Seattle to say that their 1, 2, 3 is better. And allegedly Seattle's shopping Castillo, which means they're
And the idea that Heel will not be better this year is unlikely. He's going to get better. So I think Heel's going to, if he's here, it's going to be. I think their approach to having 5 solid. I mean, Schmidt is a number 5 right now. I mean, I think Schmidt's underrated. I like him. I think he's maturing into a great pitcher. So I think that to have him, he's more of a number 3 on many teams. So to have him as a 5,
I'd say he's a 3-4.
very solid.
Right. I mean, the Yankees, I think they have strong starting pitching, and really the reality is that's the only place that they have on the roster that they can use to make room as far as salary goes is Stroman at 18 and Cortez at 8. I don't think anybody will take Grisham at 5. And, the one guy that's untouchable because nobody wants him, he's radioactive, is DJ at 15.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's nothing really else out there that's out there salary wise that they get rid of. Could they trade guys who are making no money? Absolutely. So
the problem with Stroman, and let's talk about that, is he looked terrible in the second half of the year. So much he doesn't even make it into the at any point into the playoff picture. So you got to think there's a problem there, and I just hope the league. It's upsetting because the league's going to see him, and yet the same problem. What's the last memory we have of Nestor? Throwing grand slam homer and lose game 1. So the two guys that they need to be able to shop right now aren't exactly at the top of their value proposition.
Right. So and then the question becomes, the way to get rid of anybody that's like that is you take on somebody else's money, which takes us to exactly what Steve Carroll was talking about, Bellinger, who is clearly on the bottom. I mean, they're talking about trading Bellinger. What's the right fielder? Suzaki, what's his name? The right
fielder. Isn't that Suzuki?
Suzuki, might be Suzuki. They're talking about that, but they don't really want to trade Suzuki because he's less expensive than Bellinger. The Cubs are looking to cut payroll, but they're also looking for starting pitching. So there's a couple of things that they want to do. They also have a top of the line. I mean, they have 7 prospects in the top 100, and they're allegedly the leader going into the clubhouse with regard to Tucker because they have what the Astros want. I don't, as far as Tucker goes, I don't think the Yankees and the Astros are a match for several reasons. One is they have the same needs. And if you both have the same needs, you can't satisfy each other. It just doesn't work. And if the Astros trade Tucker, they need an outfielder. Well, guess what? The Yankees need an outfielder. So what are they going to give for Tucker? The Astros need some help on third base. The Yankees need help on the infield. So there's not a match there at all. The Yankees need bullpen help, and really the Astros need some bullpen help too. So there's not really a match. And the Astros need help at first base, even more so probably than the Yankees do.
Yeah.
And guess what the Yankees need? A first baseman. Not to mention, there's a lot of stories that have been going on out there that says that the Yankees and the Astros are less likely to make a trade with each other than the Yankees and the Red Sox or the Yankees and the Mets would be because of the hated rivalry between the two of them. So
Kramer is jumping in with a quartet with a Cubs trade.
All right, so let's see what Kramer has to say.
K-Dog here. A possible trade idea which could satisfy both teams is Cortez for Bellinger. That would offset some of Bellinger's money, and the Yanks are trading from a position of strength and would be getting back a player they desperately need. If Luis Gil is part of the package it takes to get Tucker, then you do it and you don't ask any questions.
Yep. I jumped from Bellinger to Tucker, and I don't want to talk about Tucker. I don't want to talk about, I would give up Luis Gil. I have news for you. If I'm the Astros, I'm not trading Tucker for Luis Gil.
Here's what they're going to want with it. They're going to say, the hell with you with any signing requirement. After what Soto just got.
You can't do it.
No way he signed. Listen, he's with Excel. It's a different organization. He's not with
he's with Casey. He's with Clemens' agents.
Yeah, and those guys are known for, I think they negotiate more. They would like to keep their players in teams. They're not big. They don't do a lot of big free agent signings. I think that's not, the way I look at it is it probably is going to help them. They're not going to look for the last dollar. They'll look for the best place for them, which is good. So, but
I wait here.
They're not going to give it. They're not going to give it up right now. Unless the Yankees decide to blow out the doors off of this thing and offer him, Soto money or 500 to 600
I think he's going to get just under Judge money, Tucker.
Yeah, I think more. I think he's going to get more than Judge money because of his youth. He's relatively young. He's still, he'll be 28 next year?
29. Yeah, he'll be 29 when he gets to free agency.
So the thing is, it's that might get him a little bit more money than Judge. That's really the only reason Judge did make more money.
Well,
I think Judge might have
but Judge did have more money. Judge did take less money than the Giants offered
because he's Judge. He wants to be captain of the Yankees. It mattered.
So I don't disagree with Kramer, except on one thing. I think that Stroman is the guy you need to trade.
Yeah.
If I'm the Yankees and the Cubs are looking to cut payroll, I think you can kill two birds with one stone from the Cubs if they're really truly looking to cut payroll. The Cubs have a lot of stud prospects, assuming that they don't trade all of them or 3 or 4 of them for Tucker. I think the Yankees should reach out and grab both Bellinger at his $27 million and Nico Horner at his 11.5 for 25 and $12 million for 26. And there's your answer at third base or second base. And there's your answer. There's your answer for your extra outfielder.
Yeah.
And if you can throw, and the Cubs like flexible players, so you can give them a couple of flexible players that are cheap but are major league level players. I would give them a Cabrera, Orlando Cabrera. What's his name? Is it Orlando Cabrera? Why can't I remember his name?
It's
Oswaldo Cabrera. I would give him that. And if there's anything else that they want, plus I would throw in either a low-level prospect who has got high upside, which would be either Arias or Lombard Jr., so that the Cubs are replenishing their farm system when they make the trade for Tucker, if they make that trade. And then maybe something else. But that solves 2 problems for the Yankees. And yes, it does increase their payroll, but it increases their payroll and solves 2 problems. So when it ends up increasing their payroll. I did some math because, God forbid I don't do math. It increases their payroll by $21 million. If they take Bellinger and Nico and give up Stroman and a couple of guys.
What's Nico making?
11.5 this year and 12 next.
Wow. Jesus.
Wait, but do you know what Nico Horner's stats are?
Yeah, he's a pretty good player.
Listen, Nico Horner, you ready? 2024 stats for Nico Horner. He had an OPS, he had a bad season. He had an OPS plus in 2024 of only 101. But even still, he had 273 with a 335 on base and a 373 slugging. So he was fine. He also had 31 stolen bases. He's also played second base, shortstop, third base, and corner outfield. He ended up having only 7 homers and 48 RBIs, which was not, he's not a power guy in any stretch of the imagination. And he only struck out 66 times in 582 at bats.
I do love that. I love that approach.
And he would kill 2 birds with one stone, and the Yankees would still have $20 million. I think it was $26 million left to rebuild their bullpen.
Yeah.
And they would, or sign a first baseman. So if they sign a first baseman, I think if they make a trade like that, we'll get to some of the first base options.
And you don't think that they're thinking about Bellinger at first base?
I think Bellinger's an outfielder for them. I think he's an outfielder for them because I think they can solve their first base problem with money. But I also think the Yankees, and I read this just right before we got on the air, the Yankees may wait to sign guys that have the draft pick compensation and international money compensation attached, where the Yankees are going to lose the money like they did for Fried, because the Yankees got back some international money in the Red Sox trade for Narvaez. But I think
they're up to $10 million right now.
Whatever it is, but what it is I think they're going to wait, make a play for Sasaki, the pitcher from Japan, who I think is beyond my understanding, even though the agent, who is the same guy as Yamamoto and Ohtani, keeps saying, oh, well, he may want to start out in a small market. Well, it's BS. He's going to the Dodgers because he's making major league minimum. It's all about the signing bonus. He's going to go to the Dodgers. I don't see why he's not going to go to the Dodgers. But they talk about, oh, he might go to a small market team. Well, guess what? Let him go to a small market team. But, the Yankees can wait. And if
it's not happening,
if it's not coming to the Yankees, and he's going to sign, he's hopefully going to sign in the next 2 weeks.
And this is a good time where you do, wheel out, Tanaka. You do wheel out. These are his idols. This guy grew up watching this guy.
But he also grew up watching Yamamoto and Ohtani, and
I don't know. No, he plays with them. He plays with those two.
Yeah. Well, no, he's young. He never played with Ohtani.
All right, but he plays with the other guy. I mean, I think there might be a lot of appeal to that. I would do that now. This is when you roll out.
I would make that play. Right. I would make that play and find out, listen, here's our offer. We're going to give you every penny of our international money. It's the maximum we can give you. There's nothing else we can do other than give you our maximum international money, and then your salary is minimum because that's all you're allowed to make. Is this something you want?
So what is that? What is the minimum right now? 800, 900?
800.
So,
but that's all he can make. So you say to them, this is the max offer we can make. We can't go any higher than this.
And do we know who has more money?
There's only one or two teams. There's only one or two teams that had more money than the Yankees. The Dodgers have less. And so so the question is, Yankees could say, this is our offer. Do you want to come here? And if he says, then you move on, because you don't really need starting pitching. But that's inexpensive.
He's the way I look at him is he may not be very good this year. They could put him down. They could give him a shot in bullpen, let him learn, work his way in. He's a kid. How old is he?
23, 25.
I mean, God. So, though I wouldn't say that to him because you don't want to say that might deter him. But once he's there, you see what you've got in him. You don't think of him as what's his name, as not a Rabu, who was the guy, the Yankee bust. Huh?
Rabu was a Yankee bust. Are you talking about the
Rabu was pretty good.
The little lefty, whatever his name was. I forgot.
Oh my God, I can't believe we forgot the name.
Oh, he was terrible.
Rabu was good. He was the pussy toad. But,
yes,
he had moments of being good. This kid never made it out of the minor leagues.
Yeah,
who was he?
I forgot his name. He's a left.
I can't believe it.
Kiagawa. Thank you, Kramer.
Thank you, Kramer.
Kramer also says there's no way that the Cubs would take Stroman back. I don't agree with him, because if their idea is that they just signed Boyd to a contract. If their idea is Stroman was good for them for a couple of years, so they have history with him. And if their idea is that they want to do this, plus maybe they would even flip Stroman over to the Astros as part of the deal for Tucker, because the Astros are looking for a starter because they want to trade Fromber. But I think they would take Stroman because of his history with the Cubs. And you got to take something back. They're not going to be able to, unless somebody's going to offer them, unless the Orioles are going to come out and offer some of their prospects who have the second best minor league system to the Cubs. Unless the Orioles are going to offer their prospects, there's no way that the Cubs aren't going to have to take something back. So, and it's not like they're a small market team. But so I would find out a way. As a matter of fact, if they could get Nico Horner, I'd be happy with that to be a replacement on the infield. He makes a little bit more than I want. He makes a little bit more than I want. But you know what? If you go to the Cubs and say, hey, we're going to take $20 million off your payroll.
Yeah, but boy, would it be nice to have Caleb Durbin playing.
Well, I like Caleb Durbin too, but then
money.
They could throw Nico Horner is a great athlete. They could throw him out in left field. Yeah. And then if they had to, he could be the outfielder or he could be the first baseman. So looking at the free agents that are out there, let's switch positions now. We're going to go to third base. The free agents out there's really only Bregman. I don't want any part of him.
No, I'm amazed that they're talking about it like it's happening. I keep hearing people saying, "Oh, the Yankees are going to get." I don't see it. I don't think they want it. I don't know why they're going to spend the money.
His power is Deadpool power. I think he's going to end up. He's either going to end up back with the Astros, although the Astros have a 6-year rule. They have their own self-imposed limits of 6 years contracts. And the original estimation for Bregman was 7 and 182, which is 26 per. And now the new estimate is 7 and over 200 for Bregman. And his numbers in the second half of the year were outstanding. His first half was horrible, but in Yankee Stadium, his numbers don't play. So I wouldn't do that. I also don't want any part of Arenado. Not that the Yankees have a choice. Arenado did put the Yankees on his list. So good.
God, give me a break.
And one of the guys that Kramer did bring to our attention, which would be a fit for the Yankees, would be Nate Lowe.
Well, I like that because
of the wonderful things he does.
There's what did I hear? Who is going there? Somebody is it Glaber? Is Glaber looking like he's set for Texas?
No,
If he
the
go,
Glaber's set for the Angels is one of the places they took him for Glaber.
but somebody I heard
But he's the
somewhere.
first. Nate Lowe's a first baseman. So
All right,
Glaber,
so who is thinking about? Oh, is it Bellinger? Where else?
no idea.
Somebody is in the mix for Texas, and that would free up Lowe. I read it somewhere. I can't remember who it is that's freed up for first base. Oh, if what's his name goes, if big first baseman from Arizona goes there, he goes.
Goldschmidt?
If no, not Goldschmidt.
Oh, Walker.
If Walker goes there, if Walker's in on Texas, then they have Lowe freed up, and then Lowe can come to the Yankees, and that would be an interesting idea. So I like that idea, K Dog. I saw that somewhere, and it was intriguing. If they lose out on Walker, and Walker has problems, the Yankees have concerns about him. Mostly having to do with the compensation. They're going to lose yet another. They're going to use two pieces now, two people. Two more. They're going to have no draft next year. So anyway,
Yeah, so we'll. I mean, if that's what happens. I mean, that's one of the other Yankee options at first base is Walker. But when you look at first base, the other guy that I think Carroll brought up and Kramer's brought up before is Diaz from.
Again, a trade though do the Yankees have any pieces to trade? So
that's the whole thing. Is what are they going to give the Rays? The Rays don't want any money, and the Yankees. What are they, I mean, you're going to get. I mean, Diaz has got a $12 million. He's $8 million in 25 and a $12 million club option in 26. Are you going to give them Jones?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give them Jones for that. I'm not going to send Jones to Tampa. So. So
do
we'll
you think about
happens.
any situation where you're good with the Yankees giving up on Dominguez?
I'm not good with them giving up on Dominguez. He's 21 years old.
Yeah, I'm really. That's my one thing.
I think they should just put him out there, and quite frankly, let him play. And if he struggles batting right-handed, which he may, that's where I would put Pereira, who's been a stud at AAA for 3 years.
Also, why is it that you if you can't switch, if you are not good on the right side, you can't do it. Is it better to? You'd rather have him as a lefty.
Well, in the low minors, he was good right-handed. In the high minors,
right, but let's just say they can't get it out of him. The split is still in his favor. You need him to be a better left-handed hitter.
Right.
And that's where his great value is.
There's so many more right-handed pitchers in baseball that having to be that left-handed, it works.
So his great value is lefty. So if he stinks as a righty, I don't want to start platooning him because he can't hit right-handed pitching. Teach him how to hit right-hand.
Left-handed pitch, you can't hit left.
And that's because the high percentage of at bats are going to be against righties, as you said. So, but what concerns me, here's what I'm hearing. Now, here's the deal I want to bring up to you. Walker. Yeah, I know you don't like talking about Walker.
No, I like Walker.
No, but I mean, you don't like talking about Tucker. Yankees offer Heel, Dominguez, and Durbin to go there. Or what about the Yankee first baseman? What's his name? The
Rice.
Rice. What if they throw Rice in there?
Well, Rice is garbage as far as trade value.
Don't say that. That hurts his feelings. He's a listener. He could be.
No, he's as far as trade value. As a human being, he is an outstanding representative of the human race. But as a trade value,
he's a first baseman. Put him out there.
I just
go the other way over in that
well, the other first baseman that's out there is the guy that you and I both love. But I was looking at him, and even though he had 314 and had a 738 OPS plus, and makes only 13.7 and 25 before he's a free agent, his WAR was only 0.1. A rise. His WAR was only 0.1
because he doesn't do anything else. He hits 370 singles a year.
Perfect for leadoff.
Yeah, I love. This is where WAR is kind of full of hooey, because he does. If you don't do a lot of things well, your WAR is low. If you do a lot of things okay, you can have a high WAR. But
the other guy,
if you don't hit home runs, which he doesn't drive anybody in. He doesn't get a lot. He has low slug, so he's going to always have that. That's a problem.
well,
But I
Kramer
do
said
love him. And he's
Kramer's
also a
very
terrible
concerned
fielder.
Arise is not a good defender.
That's right.
So let's see what Steve Carroll had to say about Tucker, even though you know how I feel. That's no match.
Then you have Kyle Tucker. He would be an incredible guy to get in left field. We are plentiful with starting pitching right now, and as painful as it may be, you may have to give up Heel in that deal to get him in.
I'm good
Then
with
that.
we need to restock the bullpen. How about trading with Milwaukee for Devin Williams? May also cost a few players, but could be worth it. You have Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates as free agents that you could also get. Let's hear your
money.
He's blowing through the 301 number, which you're not going to do.
Yeah, that's the problem. I like it, but I don't know where the money is.
I love every single guy he mentions. I love them all, but you got to work within whatever the stupid budget is they set.
All right, here's an idea.
Oh, I see the light bulb.
Bing. All right, forget the infield. Go with Rice. Go with Durbin. Bring Martinez in to teach Durbin, or go to Santana. Bring in Santana at a low.
Well, I was going to say he's the
low deal. Put him in first base. Take your remaining money, and put it into a great closer.
Dude, that's my idea. If I was the Yankees, and Kramer's going to yell at me all week about this, is I would go make a play for Bellinger. I would then make a play, and if you had to take Nico Horner's contract to make it work, I would do that. Then as much as I would rather have Walker than Santana, Walker, they said originally he's going to get 3 and 60. It's going to be more like 3 and 75 now, which I do like the short term on it. Santana only made $5.5 million last year, but they only expect him to get a 2-year and 25, which is a lot less expensive than everybody else. I want no part of Goldschmidt and no part of Alonso. So, I wouldn't mind them going with if I had to choose, I wouldn't mind them going with an infield that was Santana, Durbin, Volpe, and Jazz. That would be a fine infield for me. And Bellinger in left and Dominguez in center and Judge in right, that's fine.
I think that is, again, a defense-minded, pitching-minded team that is on-base focused, speed. They have a lot of stolen bases in there. You got
Jazz, Durbin,
stolen bases
Volpe.
You got 30 from Volpe. You've got 50 from Jazz.
Well,
you've got 20 to 25 from Dominguez. And who knows what Durbin gives you at second. Durbin could give you 40.
Your team is much more athletic. Bellinger's a much more athletic player than they were out there. Dominguez is an athletic player, although his base running left a little to be desired as well. I'm just hoping he's not Torres-esque with regard to baseball IQ. There's a lot of things that they can do. I don't, as far as outfield, I don't want any part of Santander. I don't want Teoscar. I mean, I love Teoscar. Out of the 3 guys I'm about to mention, I love Teoscar Hernandez. He's a winner.
Yeah.
And he brings more to the table than just on the field stuff. Santander, to me, he's one of those guys. Career year and a walk year. Don't want him. Profar, I don't want Profar either, even though he's not an expensive option.
Not a good outfielder, isn't he? Terrible out there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's terrible out there. He was a terrible infielder. I don't want him. So, there's a lot of things that are out there, and there's a lot of moving pieces. And obviously, with our no contacts that we have, it's amazing to listen to you and I talk. And quite frankly, all of us on our text strings with the Highlanders and with Osti and Frank, with Kramer, obviously, to listen to us talk and then listen to what goes on the radio and what's being written. We have no context. Among the 20 guys that we text with religiously, none of us have any contacts. And yet we say the same things that these other guys do that we're getting paid.
I think we say it earlier. We've been talking about this change of approach. What they're doing right now feels like what we've been talking about them doing for 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like finally somebody heard. Maybe we have a listener that we don't know who's in the, one of the, he's an executive in the team. He says, these 2 clowns They're really on to something.
Oh, I was amazing that day that I was playing golf. What was that? That was on Friday of last week. I'm listening to MLB radio, and it was like you saw, I went on a rant. These guys, I swear to God, they just quoted our show.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous. So anyhow, I was looking at what the Cubs need based on what was written in the Chicago papers.
Mhm.
And the Cubs need bullpen help. Well, the Yankees can't really help them there. They do want another starter, even though they signed Boyd. And they want another catcher. And they want prospects. Well, the Yankees can only help them with a starter. And that would be Stroman. And then you can send them some flexible players, unless they want Rice and turn him back into a catcher. But
Well, that's another thing. How about Rice as a catcher in any of these deals?
yeah.
He wasn't a terrible catcher. I think
No,
that
allegedly he was a pretty good catcher. So
that's appealing.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's a tough road to hoe. I mean, I think the only way the Yankees can get Bellinger and still maintain their budget would be if the Cubs would take Stroman, Cabrera, and maybe even Peraza, because you got Durbin, and then end up getting two other prospects that you would throw into the deal, and then the Yankees would increase their payroll. Then I think Santana's a better option because of the payroll restraints, and that would leave them with some money. And then I was looking at the bullpen pieces that are out there in the free agency, right? Devin Williams only makes $8.5 million. So yeah, if you could trade for him, but Milwaukee's not going to take anything back. You can't trade him Cortez. I'm not trading Heel for a 1-year rental for Devin Williams. I could trade minor league prospects, but nobody that's major league ready. I mean, do you want to trade Clayton Beeter, who's never gone down the beaten path?
No value.
Right? He's got no value. JT Brubaker? No. I would trade Warren for Williams. I would, maybe Hampton. I wouldn't trade both.
Neither helped themselves last year.
No, well, Hampton was, he never made it to the majors, so it doesn't make a difference.
No, but he had his moments down there. He wasn't great,
Yeah.
and I think he hurt. They didn't have great years.
They're gonna end up.
Jones, the biggest problem, really, what's killing them right now. If Jones was even halfway on Judge's,
He would be on the team. That he'd be the left
trajectory.
fielder, and they'd be done.
It's pretty upsetting. He struck out 43% of the time last year at Double-A.
I mean, other than the fact that Tucker is a 1-year rental, I would give them Heel and Jones for Tucker. But
Nobody likes Jones.
No, nobody likes Jones anymore, and I wouldn't do that. It's a rental. The Yankees are going to end up, and this is sad. I'm going to be disappointed, but this is what I think reality is. This is going to be the Yankee bullpen next year. The guys that they have now, they're going to sign Tim Hill and Tommy Kahnle, and that's going to be it.
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to go after somebody. I think I have a feeling, and I could be wrong. I think my scenario is happening. I have a feeling the Yankees are really thinking about a world without Bellinger and without.
Do you think they're going to take this $46 million for a ride and go out there for Scott for $14 million?
I think they're going to go after something. They're going to go after somebody in the bull because I think they're all in on pitching. Maybe they go in for Bellinger, but I have a feeling it bothers me that they haven't done this deal yet. Something's wrong that this deal hasn't been done. It's over. It's over. And now what are they going to do? Going to go into Christmas next. Nothing happens between now and Christmas, New Year's. So what? Going to go into this one in January? They're going to make these deals in January? I'm a little surprised that these guys.
I think that I think the deals will start to be made. I think there's deals to be made for the next 10 days. What's today's date? The 12th?
12th.
There's deals to be made for the next 10 days. Yeah. And then there'll be a quiet period for about a week. But I don't think New Year's is going to slow anything down.
I hope not, because I just don't want this to be like last year, where nothing happens until way too late. There've been a lot of years where that's happened, where things have gotten off and never really taken off. But I'm a little surprised at how slow this winter meetings has been. You had this major burst of information that came out of Sunday with the
crochet trade. Crochet trade was pretty big.
Yeah, and there was Kramer just sent something over that Heyman, who arson judge, can you hear me? The Yankees failed to land star left-hander Garrett Crochet because they wouldn't part with both Dominguez and Lombardi. I'm sorry, I kind of agree with that. I think
I don't think they should have given up both of them.
That would have been too much. And then the Mets wouldn't give up with also failed because they wouldn't surrender Sproat, and I don't know who Sproat is, and Jeff Williams. I'm such a not a Met fan. Sorry, I don't know who they're. I don't know their form.
They're near the top of their prospect list.
So so I don't see a problem with that. I think that's fine. Red Sox gave up everybody they had. 5 guys, right?
So I mean, just so you know, Yimi Garcia went to Toronto for 2 years and $15 million, and Romano got 1 year and 7.75, and Romano had one of the single worst years ever.
Yeah,
and is off of an injury. And Yimi Garcia has good stuff. He's a good pitcher. But I mean, you got Scott, who's supposed to get like 14 a year. Hoffman, who's a swing. See, I like these guys that the Phillies are giving up on, possibly, and Hoffman and Turnbull, because they're both experienced bullpen guys, but they could be starters if you need them to be. So if you trade away a guy like a Cortez or a Stroman, and you have Hoffman and Turnbull in your pen, one of those guys could jump into your rotation, because teams average about 12 starters per season, but that's a little off because so many teams use openers now, and the opener counts as a starter when you calculate that number. So teams, you need 9 real starters, even if it's just for a guy for 3 weeks. But with guys like Hoffman and Turnbull, who have starting experience, you're getting guys that can go both ways and get more dates that way, because they don't care who they're in bed with. But the Scott is 4 for 56. They're looking at Hoffman at 4 for 44, and they're looking at Turnbull's only 1 and 7, and he had a great second half last year as a starter. Estevez is the guy from the Phillies, who I don't know why they let him walk too. He's 3 and 27. Minter's 2 and 16. Yates 1 and 14. Kittredge 2 and 14. Robertson, who I think the Yankees should bring in because he's a stable body there, 1 and 11. I like those guys. The other guys that are out there, you got Tim Hill, who made league minimum last year.
Yeah,
probably going to make about $2 million. I'm curious to see what they signed Loizaga for. If it's anything more than $3 million, they're idiots.
Well, it did 1 year, 1 year with an option.
And it's a club option. Seawald made 7.3 last year, but he had a really awful year, so he's not going to make much more than that if he makes that much. I mean, so there's guys that are out there in free agency for them to get.
And they're going to go there. I have a feeling that, I said there's a less than 0 chance that they're going to do what I just said, that they're not going to, that they don't bring in one of these guys. I think they may have faith that they can build this left side of the infield, right side of the infield with what they have right now. And
I wouldn't mind them if they need a first baseman, regardless of anything that's going on.
Yeah.
If they got a first baseman and left it with Volpe at short and Durbin and Durbin and Jazz the Smoking Bandit to be your second baseman and third baseman, I'd be fine with that, especially if they keep a Peraza and a Cabrera around.
Yeah, and they will. Those guys are still
fine with that in the infield, but then they still need an outfielder, and that's where Bellinger comes into play. There's no circumstance in my mind that Grisham should be anything more than your 4th or 5th outfielder, if not just your 6th outfielder on this team. Mm-hmm. And if they bring in Bellinger to be outfielder, that's fine with me too.
Well, where's Bellinger going to play with the Yankees?
Left field, or first base. That's the choice.
But isn't he a center fielder?
He's an everything outfielder.
So he can play it all. Because this is the problem. What people don't talk about is how incredibly hard playing left field is the Yankees team.
Right. He's a slightly above average center fielder, and he's a well above average corner outfielder.
All right.
So if Bellinger comes to the Yankees this year, he plays left field, and because they need to sign. There's too many first basemen out there that they can sign. Even Santana on a light deal that's 2 years, 25.
I love that deal. That's the deal that I think they should make. Bring in Santana, focus on the bullpen. There they go. They're a really good team.
Then they're just an outfielder away, according to what if they focus on the bullpen and the outfield position. There's not really any outfielders that are out there, right? So it's
I don't know. It seems to me they can trade for somebody. That's where they might make a trade.
Right. Bellinger's the name that's out there.
But he's a lot of money.
Yeah, so but
let's just say they are able to knock down. Would they knock $5 million off? Make the trade.
But see, I'd rather the Yankees say, don't knock any money off, but you got to take Stroman.
Yeah. Well, then Stroman is what Stroman again?
18.
18? All right. So So there's there's a $7 million delta
It's,
between.
it's an $8 million difference.
All right.
And then the Yankees throw in prospects that are good. I would throw in a Lombard or an Arias in that deal without thinking twice. And I would throw in a Cabrera or a Peraza as well, so that they're getting a starter that they want that's at the back end of their rotation.
Got it.
And they're getting a major league ready infielder that's flexible, and then they're getting a prospect.
Well, I think it'll be one of those things. We learned a lot this week. None of it was surprising. Fried was not a huge surprise to me. I knew they was on the radar.
I liked him better than Burns for the Yankees.
I had not. You asked me last week. I had it right in my notes here. What do I think? I was sure he'd go to the Mets. No surprises last week.
Me and you both said it. Unless
I'm going to be more interested in. I think the more interesting thing is what's going to happen in the next 10 days. The things that we don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see. I think the next show we may very well have an answer to these many, many perplexing questions about this team. Anyway, it's time to go. I'm going to go fill my pie hole, if that's okay with you. And
fill my pie hole as well, and then I'm going to watch some hockey and football tonight.
Enjoy the evening. Okay, my friend. Thank you, all of our friends, all of our friends of the show, friends of the pod.
And make sure you go to our YouTube page. Our YouTube page now will have not only the full show, but as we are getting clips of our show and chopping them up and putting them out there on the YouTube.
I love that, because then you can cut through the crap you don't like, which is most, and then go right to those great little tidbits.
And I highly recommend. I was talking to Asti, and Asti was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to watch your show." I said, "Asti, you just drove 8 hours from West Virginia to Ohio. Why wouldn't you just listen to the show so you don't have to look at our ugly mugs the whole time?" I don't get it. All right.
Good question. All right. Love you, bud. Be good.
Good luck in prison.
In prison. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.